here at Allegiant Stadium as the Raiders took fans on an emotional roller coaster all throughout the evening.
Mad Max Crosby. Go Raiders!
The vibe was so cool. I mean, the energy level, that's what I'm trying to compare it to. It was great.
Goes to the end zone. Touchdown, Raiders. Number 4. Listen to the crowd for Derek Carr. Yeah!
There's a buzz around this town of Las Vegas. The celebration is just beginning here at Allegiant Stadium.
Well, we've known for a long time who the Raiders are going to be playing, but today we know exactly when they're going to be playing them. Eddie Paskal here at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center with my man Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio 920 AM. Q, the schedule is out. Life is good. It's like Christmas in May, brother. How are you?
It really is, man. It's exciting. You know, every fan base gets fired up. Raider Nation is going to be fired up when they look at the schedule, and you know everyone's going to go through it and say, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, boom, 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 boom. Going to the Super Bowl. Here we go. So, yeah, it's exciting times.
And look, we're not going to go win, loss,
No.
In May, we're not going to do it.
But that's what the fan base will
100%. 100%. But what we are going to do, we are going to go through each week. We are going to look at what this means for your 2022 Las Vegas Raiders. We're going to look at some themes. We're going to look at the primetime games.
Right.
We are going to break it all down. So, Q, before we go week by week by week, which we are going to do, when you look at the schedule initially, and for those of you, before we actually get going, I encourage everyone, head on over to Raiders.com, and a big shout out to our video department because they've put together a fantastic schedule release video that I encourage all of you to check out. 10 out of 10, major props to those folks. But when you look at the schedule now, what stands out to you as we kind of dive into this journey and this adventure together?
Well, you know, the biggest things for me, whenever I look at any schedule, I always look for the bye week. Does it come at an early time? Does it come late? Is it somewhere close to the middle? You know, how many primetime games are there? And then for me, it's always cold weather games as well. You know, how many times do the Raiders have to travel somewhere where it's going to be cold, like a Kansas City, like a Denver, like a Pittsburgh? Those are the things that stand out to me. And when I look up and down the Raiders' schedule as of right now, I feel like it's pretty even out, you know, and it's not too bad as far as cold weather games, not too bad at all, and I like where the bye week falls. So it's a lot to like in this schedule.
In terms of cold weather, the only guaranteed cold weather game we have right now, Christmas Eve in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, and that's going to be cold.
I mean, but that's a throwback, though, right?
I know.
That's a throwback right there. That's something that you get fired up about. If you're a Raider fan, you have to embrace that one because all you think about is you think about John Madden's hair flying in the wind. You know what I mean? You think about the immaculate incompletion.
Now, let me ask you this, right? And we were joking about this before we started rolling.
Right.
50th anniversary, the Immaculate Reception,
Yep.
is December 23rd.
Right.
I have a feeling our pals at the scheduling office knew what they were doing with that.
That wasn't a coincidence?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, and you know what? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. That should be something that they highlight. You know, I mean, because the NFL is very historical. They always want to go back and reference all the good times and all the, you know, bad times and all the historical games throughout the history of the league. That is one of them. That's a major one.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's something that this organization and the Steelers as well do a phenomenal job of leaning into, of educating their younger fan base about why these games matter, about why these rivalries are important. And yeah, it was 50 years ago, but people remember that, Q.
Man, you go into the airport there in Cleveland and think of Pittsburgh, and they have the actual catch. They have Franco Harris catching the ball. I think in Las Vegas, what they need to do at the airport is have an official just like waving it off, like incomplete. How cool would that be?
Yeah, for that week, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Just have an official that right there when you get off the plane at the airport, just waving it off incomplete.
Yeah, I think you and I look at kind of the schedule in totality before we go week by week. Is the big thing for me is one, yes, the cold weather games, but two things really stand out are 3 of these first 5 games that the Raiders have division games.
I love it.
We didn't play our first division game in 2021 until week 4.
Right.
So you're going hot and heavy with this beast of an AFC West, and you're going off in a big way. The second thing for me is that you're going to Kansas City in October.
Right. No, that's a big deal. It is a big deal. But what I love about having the early division games is same thing I loved about seeing Baltimore week 1 last season was the fact that these teams are still trying to get into who they are. So just say the Raiders get onto a roll, you know, just just say they get onto a roll, that could be a really good jump start in the division. Now, on the reverse side of it, it could be a bad jump start if things don't go the way they wanted to. But I feel like that's a good opportunity to come out of the gates hot and do really well in the division and the AFC. And we all saw every AFC game mattered last season.
Big time. And last thing for me before we start going week by week is the fact that week 13 to week 16 is going to be tough. That's when you are going to learn. I know it's late in the year, but I know you are going to learn a lot about your 2022 Las Vegas Raiders. But before we get to week 13, Q, we begin with week 1. And your Las Vegas Raiders start the 2022 regular season on the road.
Yeah.
Road in air quotes, perhaps, against the Los Angeles Chargers. And for me, this is if you want to start the season on the road, this is the place you want to start it at.
Sure.
It's a short trip. You're not going to be on a plane for 4 hours. And you're going to, I don't want to say the friendly confines of SoFi, but you're going to a place where you know that Raiders fans are going to show up and support you.
Right, exactly. Your fan base is going to be there. They're going to be loud. They're going to be proud. They're going to be ready. And they're going to think about, just everything that's going on, all of the conversation that they're going to have this year about how tough the division is. And they're going to be lathered up, ready to go to get the division game started off.
And I say this every year, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is. You don't the version that you get week 1 of your team is not the version that they're going to be for the year. If you win by 50, lose by 50, week 1 is not oftentimes a great indicator of who you are going to be for the entirety of the season. That said, if the Raiders go into LA and have a fantastic day, you and I are both going to be smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, you're good. You're good to go. And that's the thing about it. In the preseason, you know that the guys that are starting, the guys that you're going to see playing all the time, they're not playing very much because you want to get them healthy through the preseason to the regular season. So you're right. Teams will start to ease themselves in. It almost feels like the first quarter of the season is almost like a glorified preseason. You know what I mean? Like it's really when teams start to get lathered up and get going in the right direction. So what I'm excited about is the Raiders having that opportunity to go into SoFi, kind of set the tone for the season, knowing that, hey, this is going to be a dogfight of a division.
Yeah, and against a really good Chargers team, too. I know it sounds sacrilegious to talk, praise the opponent, but I mean, you look at what the Chargers have done this offseason, right? Khalil Mack, old friend, back there. J.C. Jackson there. I mean, Justin Herbert now going into year 3, feeling is this the year, Q? Is this the year that Justin Herbert kind of takes it to that next level and enters that conversation of the elite, perhaps?
There's a lot of expectations riding on his shoulders. Everyone's been talking about him since he was in school. Everyone.
I know.
I know you know
Trust
very
me.
well, because look, there was a lot of conversation if the guy was going to come out one year. He ended up going back to school and staying another year. I mean, he very well easily could have been the number 1 overall pick. This guy has been glorified for a long time for good reason. He's a really good quarterback. I know a lot of Raider fans don't like to hear that, but he is. They have a really good team there in LA with the Chargers. I think one of the biggest questions is just, how is everything going to play out when these teams have to play each other twice a year? Because I don't think it's going to be so easy.
No, and certainly not. And we'll talk about it later on the show, too. But the fact that the Raiders play the Chargers week 1, and they don't see them again until December, week 13. So you're essentially playing 2 different teams.
Yep. Yeah, you are. And then injuries play a major role as well. And so, one of the big things that is going to happen, one of the big themes for this year, I believe, is going to be who's the healthiest team. Who can stay healthy? Who can weather the storm of a gauntlet of a season and a gauntlet of a schedule? And I know strength of schedule. I know the Raiders on paper have a very tough strength of schedule. You got to play the teams that are on the schedule.
And I mean this in the best possible way too. It feels like when the Chargers and the Raiders get together, whether it's in Los Angeles or here in Las Vegas, it's just funky. It's just an exciting game. I mean, we all remember what happened at the end of the season last year, but it feels like every time these two teams get together, it's fireworks. There's something that we see that we haven't seen before, and it just seems par for the course for these two squads.
Might see a weather delay indoors.
Indoors. Who knows?
Anything could happen, but that's the beauty of the AFC West. Anything could happen on any given day, and none of the records ever matter because this is a division game. These are rivalry games, and the teams want to beat up on each other, and they're going to do that this year.
So after the Silver and Black go down to Los Angeles, they return home, Q, for the home opener, week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals. Kickoff scheduled for 1:25 p.m. And this is an intriguing game to me for a lot of reasons. One, yes, it's the home opener.
Right.
That place is going to be jumping. That beautiful palace that we have right down there on the Strip is going to be nuts. But the Raiders are getting a Cardinals team, a very good Cardinals team, in my opinion, without the services of DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
So if this game occurred, let's call it week 9 on November, in November, then you do have to deal with DeAndre Hopkins. But for obvious reasons, he's not going to be there in Las Vegas, and that is not something that we can discount headed into this matchup.
No, you can't. But I'll tell you what, you also have to remember that Marquise Hollywood Brown, the Cardinals Cardinals went out and made that big move. And the reason why I say you got to remember about that, Kyler Murray and Marquise Hollywood Brown played together at Oklahoma. I covered the Big 12 for a very long time when I was in Central Texas. And I'll tell you, that's a heck of a combination right there. That's a heck of a 1-2 punch. And so I know that what we saw on draft day, Marquise Brown is very happy about being in Arizona. I know Kyler is happy to be reunited with his college teammate. So you want to talk about some fireworks. Like you said, the Allegiant Stadium is going to be the home opener. Raider Nation is going to be lathered up. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a heck of a test for the defense as well.
You know, and speaking of that defense, on a very human level, Chandler Jones' first game at Allegiant Stadium is going to be against his old squad,
I didn't even
man.
think about that.
Against his boys, man.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me there's going to be a lot of adrenaline, a lot of feelings pregame. I mean, that's going to be a crazy game for him.
And look, one thing to note is Cliff Kingsbury is a heck of a head coach, and you see the Cardinals always have a lot of early success as well. So it's going to be a tough game for the Raiders. They have a couple of tough games. I mean, the first quarter of the season is really tough, so they're gonna have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and I think to me it's also very exciting that we're gonna have that opportunity to see the tandem of Max Crosby and Chandler Jones doing their thing. And I joke with our PR director Will Kiss all the time, where one of my favorite moments pregame is Max coming out blowing kisses to the crowd.
Right.
I mean, the fact that he's gonna be teamed up with Chandler, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
No, it is. You know, and what was exciting to me is when Chandler Jones was introduced to the media, and he was so excited about playing with Max Crosby. Think about this. Chandler Jones is a guy who's a seasoned veteran in the league, and one of the things he said is, guys, you don't understand. I get to play with Mad Max Crosby. The way he said that, it just kind of sent chills through my body. We were listening to it live. We had it playing live on the radio station, and it was just like, man, that's okay. He's excited. He's fired up about this opportunity, so I can't wait to see it.
And I think it's and you and I have talked about this before too. I think that's a credit to Max as well.
Absolutely.
For showing like, hey, he's a long way from being that skinny dude who showed up in Oakland, right? Like he is one of the premier edge rushers in this game, and he has the respect of a lot of folks around the league.
Veterans around the league. That's a big deal.
Dudes who have done it for a long time, because you look at Chandler Jones' career. This is not a guy who's done it for a year or 2 years. This is a dude who's done it for a decade plus and done it at an incredibly high level.
Very high level. He's done some really good things in the league, and I'm excited about seeing what Chandler Jones could bring to the table. And that combination, as you mentioned, man, Max Crosby and Chandler Jones screaming off the edges. You got some new guys in the middle, some big defensive tackles that are going to try to make that pocket collapse. I mean, there's a lot to like about the potential of this Raiders defense.
100%. So the Raiders finished that first home game at beautiful Allegiant Stadium, and they hit the road, Q, and they're off to Tennessee to take on Ryan Tannehill, ? And the Tennessee Titans. I mean, realistically, I think catching the Titans this early, I think it's very likely you're going to see Ryan Tannehill, but a team that is incredibly intriguing headed into 2022.
Tennessee's a really good team. They really are. And you know that Derrick Henry is going to be the motor that's going to make everything go in that backfield. And Ryan Tannehill's a heck of a quarterback. He's done some really good things for Tennessee. You know, they like the way that he's able to squeeze the ball into little windows. And, you know, that's a good thing and a bad thing at times. But I'll tell you what, man, Tennessee is going to be a tough foe. And for the Raiders to have to go on the road to Nashville, and heck of a city, by the way. I do enjoy that city. And that was, I mean, having the draft in Las Vegas was fantastic. Having the draft in Nashville was probably like second to Las Vegas for sure.
I would agree. I mean, Nashville's a fantastic city. And the one thing, and I think it's bears bringing up, is you do have that 10 a.m. East Coast start. And you know the statistics, right? We have seen them play out year after year after year. It is hard for teams that reside on the West Coast or in the Pacific time zone to head east and have that early kickoff, because you're getting to the stadium body clock wise at 6:30.
I'll tell you
7
what,
a.m.
though the Raiders have done over the past few years, they've done a really good job navigating those 10 a.m. starts, you know, because that, as a Raider fan, used to be my dreaded, you know, when I'd wake up, I'm like, oh, I don't like this game. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff. The Raiders have done a really good job, and I expect that to continue.
You know, and one thing for me, Q, kind of the game within the game, is Derrick Henry versus this kind of revamped Raiders defensive line. Because we've learned a lot about Dave and Josh over these past several months. And one thing for me is that when we have seen all the moves they have made, they have gone out of their way to fortify that defensive line, but in particular, fortify the interior of that defensive line. And these big fellas up front are going to have their hands full with old Derrick Henry coming down.
No doubt. Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, one of his big things is stopping the run. And so they're going to have their hands cut out they're going to have their hands full with Derrick Henry. But like you mentioned, though, these guys in the defensive line, man, I call them 3 bills because they're all over 300 pounds, you know, and that's part of it is slowing down that run, is having that big beef in the middle and then allowing guys like Chandler Jones and Max Crosby to collapse from the edges. So, yeah, it's something to look forward to. It's going to be a heck of a challenge early in the season.
You know, and I know when we think about the Titans, we think of Derrick Henry for obvious reasons, but They have no scrubs on the outside either. I mean, AJ Brown is gone, Julio Jones is gone. So it'll be very interesting to me to figure out how they kind of put those pieces together, how Ryan Tannehill figures out how he's going to make the most out of the folks that he has on that roster now, and makes them that true dynamic offensive threat, with Derrick Henry obviously kind of leading the charge.
Well, we know what the run game opens up. It opens up the passing game in a major way. So if you got a lathered up Derrick Henry and he's running downhill, it makes everyone else on the outside that much better. So then it makes the windows for Ryan Tannehill to throw that ball a lot more wide, just because they have that opportunity. So yeah, man, the big key in this game is going to be slowing down Derrick Henry so they can play tight on the outside and don't allow those windows to open up.
Raiders finish up in Tennessee, and they return west to take on Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos.
Buddy.
Week 4. Q, I'm a little surprised this isn't a primetime game, to be honest with you. We got a 1:25 kickoff on October 2nd. That's week 4 for all you guys listening and watching on YouTube. But I mean, the storylines for this game write themselves, do they not?
No, they do. And, I mean, that really goes for the whole division. But Russell Wilson coming in from Seattle, Denver makes the big trade in the offseason. It's so funny because I thought that they were all in on Aaron Rodgers. I thought, okay, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers or bust. And then when it didn't happen with Aaron Rodgers, I thought, okay, well, they're going to run it back with Drew Lock. Until they didn't, they went out and make the big splash move, and hey, big ups to them, right? They go out and they make the big move.
They got
say,
their guy.
Hey, we need to go get a guy. We're going to go get a guy, and they did, and they bring in Russell Wilson. And so, as we all know, that Russell is in Denver right now, working, trying to learn the offense, the defense, special teams. He's the all-in guy. He's a heck of a quarterback, and there's a guy across that the Raiders brought in named Chandler Jones that's very familiar with him.
100%. And I know we've talked a lot about Russell Wilson, as we should, and Russell Wilson is getting the praise. Let's not sleep on Nathaniel Hackett either. The previous offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, who's now at the helm in Denver. I mean, his offense is historically put up points. We're looking at the number 1 scoring offense in 2020 for the Packers. And so to kind of team his mind up, right, with Russell Wilson, I think if you're a fan of the Broncos, you have to be optimistic and feeling good going into 2022.
Well, the thing about it is what Russell didn't like in Seattle is he wanted to cook. That's what they kept saying. He wants to cook. He wants to get out there and he wants to light it up, throw the ball around the yard. And I think Nathaniel Hackett and his offense is going to allow him to do that. So if, Jerry Jeudy is the guy that we think Jerry Jeudy is, and he's a heck of a wide receiver, got all the respect in the world for him, I mean, that could be a great 1-2 punch right there. It's just obviously it's early in the season, so it's going to take a little bit of time to develop. We know how that goes. Quarterbacks got to get on the same page, but we'll see. It's week 4, so at that point they might really be, like Russell says, cooking.
Yeah, and I think, what do you feel about the timing of this game? Week 4 at home, knowing you got to play them twice. I think this game falls at a good time for the Silver and Black.
Oh, I agree. No doubt about it. You have Denver. Again, I like these division games that they do have. I think that it's important to get some of these division games out. You mentioned last season where they didn't play their first one to week 5?
Week 4.
Yeah, week 4. There you go. Yeah, it was already a handful of games under their belt before they got their first division game. So I do think that that's important to be able to do that and get Denver early. Why not? They've had some really good success against Denver, and they're hoping to keep that going.
One person who's had a lot of success, not against Denver per se, but against Russell Wilson. You brought him up, Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to run through this note because it's just so good. He just can't escape him, right? Russ cannot escape Chandler Jones. He sacked Russ 12 times since 2017.
And you know who else knows that? Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like, man, I thought I got out of that division with that guy, and now he's back in, and that's going to be a fun, good rivalry. Man. I remember Chandler Jones talking about it. He said, hey, I love Russ. Just don't love him when we're playing against him. I got to get after him.
And, and that's the beauty of it, right? Where you look at Russ and Chandler, and you look at really a lot of these pieces that the Raiders added this year. It's, kind of all these relationships, all these rivalries per se, but they're all built on respect, right? They're all built on a healthy respect and an understanding of like, hey, I'm really good at my job, but so is that guy.
Right.
And we're going to bring the best out of each other, and we're going to have some fantastic battles along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely looking forward to that. That's one of those that is circled on the calendar a couple times a season, obviously, because the Denver Broncos. And plus, who doesn't get up for the Denver Broncos?
Another one that everyone should have circled on their calendar.
DJ Khaled just said another one.
Another one. I don't know if we can clear that one. We'll see. Week 5, after the Raiders take on the Broncos, they're off to Kansas City. I mentioned this, going in October, early October. And that cue, Monday Night Football.
Man, who doesn't love Monday Night Football? Who doesn't love it? I mean, you want to talk about historical games. We've talked about that already. The history of the Raiders, the history in the NFL. That's a big-time historical game, and I love the fact that it's at Kansas City in week 5 as opposed to later on in the season when it could be super cold. Who knows what the Chiefs are, what kind of position they're in right there. The fan base will be all lathered up, and they have their own Raiders week and everything, so the rivalry is real. We all know that. So yeah, I love the fact that they're playing in Kansas City early in the season.
Doesn't it always feel like, I mean, obviously not taking this year out, it always feels like the Raiders are in Kansas City late November, December, January.
Right.
I've never been to Kansas City in October, Q. I'm sure it's fantastic. I'm sure it's a lovely little city. Wouldn't know.
Right.
But I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, that is one of the hardest places to play in the NFL.
It's loud.
It's loud.
Yeah.
It is incredibly loud. And going there when, fingers crossed, the weather is a little more friendly, I think a good thing for all parties involved.
No doubt, no doubt. And so I like that. You know, when I see that on the schedule, that's one of the things I look for is the potential cold weather games. And so when you see at Kansas City and you see it week 5, you kind of get a little bit of a smile. Say, okay, good. You know, and you know, who doesn't like good weather? You know what I mean? Regardless.
That's why we live in Las Vegas, Q.
Right, exactly. But I mean, even the folks in Kansas City, I mean, look, they're used to it, but they still prefer the good weather. Let's not make any mistake about it. So I mean, that's why that's one of the first things I look at is, okay, where's the potential cold weather games? Oh, that's in Kansas City week 5. Oh, that's good. That's good.
You know, and we've gotten so used to over the past couple of years, and it's a credit to Andy Reid and everything that he has built collectively with his staff in Kansas City, of them just being old faithful, just being consistent, knowing who they are, what they are. The Chiefs team that we see in 2022 now, a little different. Tyreek is not there.
Right.
And one of the most talented, dynamic playmakers in the NFL. And I think all of us assume that Andy Reid is going to figure out a way to kind of fill that void. But Tyreek is just one of those dudes that is different. And so I think just as a fan of the game, seeing what the Chiefs do, and obviously wearing our silver and black glasses and having a vested interest in what they do, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of progress through 2022 with some of these tweaks.
I want to really see how this team shakes out because if you saw what they did in the draft, they went very defensive heavy, right? Because they know, look at this division. You got Russell Wilson in Denver. You got Justin Herbert with the Chargers. You got Derek Carr with the Raiders. I mean, they're going to have to be able to stop somebody. So the Chiefs went in and made a lot of defensive moves in the draft, and they had a lot of draft capital, you know, and they made some good free agent moves that are helping out their defense as well. So I think that every team in this division realizes that, we could probably score, but we also need to stop somebody. So Kansas City, so they may have kind of a little bit different philosophy than they've had in past years.
You know, and one thing we talk about the game within the game that's going to be super interesting to me when we get to October 10th is Andy Reid, one of the premier offensive minds in this game.
Yes.
Josh McDaniels, another premier offensive mind in this game.
Absolutely.
I mean, I want to see touchdowns, Q. I want it to be old Oregon circa 2012 football, baby. Give me that 70-63.
There you go. It'll be a little almost like the Big 12 that I used to cover, you know, a little Big 12 action where you spread it out, throw it around the yard and make it happen. But no, in reality, man, it's like it could very well be one of those shootouts, or it could be one of those where, you know, Patrick Graham has had a lot of success against the Chiefs in the past as a defensive coordinator, so they might be one of those kind of X's and O's and chess and checkers, and you know what I mean? It might be one of those really, you got to break it down, and man, it not a frustrating game, but one of those games where it's like, man, if you score a couple times, you might win this one, depending on how they shake it out.
You know, we've talked about all those changes, but for those of you that are watching on YouTube, Patrick Mahomes, the graphic we just saw, 21-3 against the AFC West. I mean, that dude is just, I mean, it is what it is, right? And he deserves the benefit of the doubt. Him and Andy Reid have built together, one of the best working relationships in the NFL. And it seems not to matter, right? Who is thrown in there, the state of the offensive line, what they got on defense. That is a group that just knows how to win football games.
Yeah, and that's so funny because I realized that the minute that the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes, as I mentioned a couple times, that I covered the Big 12, so he was at Texas Tech. And as soon as they traded up for him, I thought they're going to trade up to get Patrick Mahomes. And that dude with Andy Reid is going to be a problem. And, well, what'd you say, 21-3 against AFC West?
Yep.
Enough said.
Yeah, enough said. But after that, and also the one thing that I do, and I think it's something that we kind of glossed over, but we should bring to attention a little bit, is the Raiders get an extra day to get ready for that game, right? So in between week 4 at the Broncos at home, and then you get Monday Night Football. So it might sound kind of small to your average fan, but to have an extra day, an extra 24 hours to get ready for Patrick and one of the most dynamic offenses in the NFL, Patrick Graham's got to be like, all right, cool, man. Like, I know it's a huge challenge, but I'm going to get that extra day, that extra work day to get ready.
Right, no doubt. And, I mean, again, to not have to do on the road and then on the road again, you know, I think that's big. So when they do prepare for Kansas City, they're doing that from home.
Yeah, 100%. And then they're going to come home, and we're going to enjoy that Week 6 bye, Q. We talk about the bye every year. You and I have joked. The bye, regardless of when it falls, falls at the perfect time. That will be no different for your 2022 Raiders. But what do you think? I know that all of us like to have that bye a little later in the schedule, but I think Week 6, all things considered, especially the fact that the Raiders are going to play 4 preseason games next year with the Hall of Fame game. So you're looking at 4 preseason games and then the 5 regular season games. That's 9 weeks of football. I think the bye is going to be at a perfect time for them.
No, it's fine. It's fine there in Week 6. It feels a little bit earlier. I'd say, okay, it's a little concerning because you always want to worry about injuries and everything. The bye week always gives players an extra week to kind of, lick their wounds and get a little bit better. But, you look at the schedule and you have, AFC. 4 out of the 5 games are AFC games. So I think that's a good kind of barometer of, okay, this is where the team's at right now. Go into the bye week, get a little healthy, and, okay, we can work on this too.
The one thing I don't like about this bye, Q, there's only one thing.
What?
So I always try to sneak into an Oregon game at some point each
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
Right? It
Right.
usually coincides with the bye. Guess when Oregon's bye is in 2022. I'll give you one guess, Q.
Well, I guess I know already.
I'll give you one guess, baby.
I guess I know. The same week.
You know it.
Wow.
But it'll be a great chance for all of us to rest, to recharge, and then really dive into the second
Is there
part.
any resting in football season?
I will say, during the bye, I make a concerted effort
Mm-hmm.
to turn the phone off from Saturday to Sunday.
Do you really?
I do. I try. Now, not always successful,
Yeah.
but I try.
Okay.
Because if there's only one chance, and like man, from July
Right.
until hopefully February, it's go, go, go.
Right.
If I can get 36 hours, go to a nice dinner with the wife, be able to chill out for a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm going to take it.
All right. Well, I was
I'm
going
gonna
to
try.
I was going to come to your house, but if you're going to take the wife to dinner, I guess I'll respect that.
You meet us out there. I'm going to drop your name. I don't have to pay for anything. It'll be
There you
great.
go. There you go. Sounds
So
good.
we all come back from the bye week 6 into week 7, and the Raiders stay at home.
Yes, that's
which
big.
I think is big. Yes. And they take on the Houston Texans, October 23rd, 1:05 p.m. kickoff time. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You're always going to come out of the bye a little, I don't want to say rusty,
Right.
but it's going to take you a little bit to
Yep.
get going. The fact that the Raiders are not going to have to get on a plane coming out of the bye, I love it. Absolutely
Exactly.
love it.
No, I agree 100%. I think that's a good thing. I mean, if you remember last season, they came off the bye and had to go to New York, so they had to go to the East Coast. So I think it's much better that you come out of the bye. You're a little bit rested, like you said. You kind of worked on some things that you might not have had time to work on before. And now, oh, by the way, you're at Allegiant Stadium as well.
And you're taking on a Houston Texans team that, don't get deceived by that record
No,
last
not
year,
at all. Not at all.
is a good football team and a football team that is very interesting.
Right.
You're going to roll in with Davis Mills, who, according to some of our fantastic prep stats, the second highest quarterback rating of rookies last year. So Davis Mills, a bit of a mystery. This team, a bit of a mystery. Lovie Smith is a stud. You know,
he is.
he's going to have those dudes ready to rock for 17 weeks. But I think that when you look at this and you're coming out of a bye, I think, yes, it's most important that you stay home, but do not sleep on the Houston Texans in 2022.
No. I talked to John McClain from the Houston Chronicle, actually recently retired from the Houston Chronicle. I talked
Shout
to
out
him
to John McClain one time.
every single week I talked to him, and they love Davis Mills there in Houston. So they do believe in him. Of course, there's always going to be questions from people on the outside that might not watch the team as much, but they love Davis Mills and what he brings to the table. So, yeah, do not sleep on that team.
Yeah, it'll be a very, very exciting game. And after that, Q, the Raiders hit the road again. Week 8, off to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Another one of those 10 a.m. East Coast kickoff times. Another team, the New Orleans Saints, that are going to be very interesting in 2022,
yes.
to put it mildly. And this is the first time that former head coach Dennis Allen is going to take on the Silver and Black as a head coach, I should say.
Right, of course. He's been defensive coordinator, but I look at this and I like that. I mean, hey, going to New Orleans is one of my favorite cities outside of Las Vegas and a couple other cities. I love to go to New Orleans. I just think that the NFL kind of missed the boat here. It's the day before Halloween. What two better fan bases to represent on Halloween than the Raiders and the Saints? You telling me Bourbon Street wouldn't be popping on Monday night for that game?
I mean, if you think of two fan bases
Right.
that in their DNA were born for Halloween, it's the Saints and the Raiders. Two fan bases that are very passionate, that know their football, and like to have a little bit of fun in the process.
At the same time, have a little bit of fun. Yeah, that's the only complaint I have when it comes to the NFL and this schedule. If the Raiders and the Saints aren't playing on Halloween, something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. But even though we're going in on the 30th, like you said, a missed opportunity.
You know what that will be, though? That'll be Raider fans say, you know what, we're going to stay a couple extra days.
Yeah. Might as well. Hey, boss, I told you I was going to be back on Monday. I don't know if I'm going to make it. But a few really interesting notes from this game. Obviously, the Saints, also a bit of a mystery heading into 2022. This is the first time that neither Sean Payton or Drew Brees won't be on the sidelines for the Saints since 2006.
Man, that's a very, very long time.
What were you doing in 06?
06, I was getting in trouble. No, I don't know. I don't know what I was doing in 06, man. I can't even remember that far back. I think I might have been hanging out in the 559 somewhere.
I don't even know. Was I in high school? I think I might have been in high school.
Thanks. You just made me feel old.
No. You're youthful. You got that youthful exuberance to you.
Okay.
But, I mean, the Saints are a team that are currently also going through some stuff, trying to figure out who they want to be.
Right.
And by week 8, they're going to have a pretty good idea of who they are.
For sure, absolutely, yeah. They'll have that quarterback position solidified. Jameis Winston is back there in New Orleans and looking like the whole team really likes him. And Dennis Allen, I know that he used to be the Raiders head coach, but I'm excited for his opportunity. You know what I mean? I mean, he's really worked his tail off after not being successful with the Raiders, but he's been able to be a defensive coordinator and had a lot of success. And now he's got an opportunity to take over for a guy that has some big shoes in Sean Payton. So I'm excited for his opportunity.
100%, and a guy who has had a lot of success. But I think just one interesting note, and this is a note. That's all it is. Dennis Allen, as the defensive coordinator, has played the Raiders twice. The Raiders are 2-0 in those games.
Nice. I just remember the Derek Carr flip.
Yes.
I remember the Derek Carr flip, and wasn't that right in front of? It was right in front of Da.
Yeah, and I remember actually my lasting memory from that game. That was the game where Jalen Richard, I believe, took his first NFL touch to the house in his hometown.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about really cool moments.
That's
man.
what got the Raiders on the comeback because they were losing in that game, right? And then Jalen Richard all of a sudden popped that, and I remember sitting at the house on the couch, and I was like, "Whoa, hold on." They have a chance to come back in this game, and they ultimately won it.
So this is, if memory serves, Q, that's the Raiders won that because the Saints missed a last-second field goal, I believe.
I can't remember that part.
I want to say it was like a 50-plus yard field goal from Will Lutz.
Right.
I know our stellar research team can look that one up.
Right.
But I remember because when you're in the press box at down there in New Orleans, you're way up there.
Yeah.
I mean, you are up there.
It's open air, too.
Yeah. So I remember having a really hard time trying to see, did this kick go through? And so you get, it's like that classic, one ref has the arms up, the other one's calling it off, one half of the stadium's going crazy, the other's just kind of generally confused. I mean, but in terms of an atmosphere to go see a football game, it is a blast to go down there and enjoy a game.
No, it really is. That was a heck of a game. I remember that one, and that was a lot of fun, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And Halloween weekend, and I know Halloween's on that Monday, but I think all the fan bases are going to be fired up for that one.
Last note before we move on to Week 9, though, Q. Tyrann Mathieu going home. Now a member of that Saints defense. A dude who has had a lot of success in the league, but in particular a lot of success against your Las Vegas Raiders. But after the Raiders take on Tyrann Mathieu and the New Orleans Saints, back on the road, this is, I believe, one of 2 back-to-back road weeks for the Silver and Black. So they come back to Vegas, and then they head straight back to the East Coast to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now this, another really, really interesting game. I look at, and when I go through and do my analysis of the schedule, I look at the back-to-backs, right? In terms of going on the road. It is hard to travel to the East Coast. It just is. And I know the record was not there for the Jacksonville Jaguars a year ago, but Trevor Lawrence is a dude who, if things get rocking for him and he has that stability, do not forget how good this guy was 24 months ago.
Right. No, he's got some goods, and then they stocked up this whole offseason. They went out and spent a whole lot of money. Shout out to Zay Jones. Yeah. Zay Jones got a nice little contract for all the hard work that he did with Derek Carr and the Raiders, and so he was rewarded, and they rewarded other players like a Christian Kirk, and they've gone out and said, okay, this is what we need to make our young quarterback successful. We built an offensive line around him, we brought some weapons in around him, and now we're going to go out there, and oh, by the way, we have a Super Bowl winning head coach. So, you could look at Jacksonville and say, oh, yeah, but they picked number 1 over. Look, man, look. Every year is a different year. They have some stud players on that squad and a guy who's been there, done that in Doug Peterson. So back-to-back road weeks is not going to be easy traveling to the East Coast like you mentioned. So another important game right there.
Yeah, and I think really it's stating the obvious here. A lot of this comes down to Trevor Lawrence and kind of what that step he can take in 2022.
And he got Doug Peterson to help develop him.
Yeah, and I feel like, not in a bad way at all, but I feel like he got a bit of a mulligan last year for everything that organization collectively went through.
Right.
So it'll be very interesting to see, especially at this point as we are in early November, what he's done up to that point. Do we see that marked improvement? Because regardless of the player, regardless of the position, you want to see from your elite top-tier dudes, you want to see that jump from year 1 to year 2. So catching Trevor Lawrence about halfway, give or take, through that second year, I have a feeling that the Trevor Lawrence we see that week is going to be incredibly different than the Trevor Lawrence we saw a lot of 2021.
We've known how good this quarterback could be. We really have. We've seen the work that he put in at Clemson. I mean, this guy was no doubt about it. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. We knew that. So now you got to get a guy that can get in there and just kind of mold him into who they need him to be. And I think if there's any guy that's ideal for that, it's Doug Peterson. You know, there was conversations about Byron Leftwich possibly being the head coach there. It ends up going to Doug Peterson, and I think that you know, Trevor Lawrence got a good deal there because Doug Peterson has had much success with a lot of different quarterbacks.
And speaking of Clemson, I feel like 35% of these rosters are dudes that went to Clemson.
Absolutely.
I mean, you brought up Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Cleveland Ferrell, Trayvon Mullen, Hunter Renfrow, John Simpson. Me and you and half of the I feel like if there's going to be a big Clemson reunion, that's the week.
Right, for sure. No doubt. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be a heck of a game.
Absolutely. So then the Raiders finally return home. They go back to Allegiant Stadium and welcome in the Indianapolis Colts for their Week 10 matchup. That's on November 13th. Kickoff scheduled for 1:05 and a rematch of a game last year that very much went the way of the Silver and Black.
Right, it did, and that was a game that was very important last year. The Raiders needed to win that game against the Colts, and they were able to get it done, you know, and that was one of the games that helped them get into the playoffs eventually. And look, this is going to be a tough one. Indy has retooled their roster. You know, they've made some changes, and there's a lot to like about that squad. I mean, if you're a football fan in general, you know that's a heck of a team right there.
And they brought in a lot of familiar faces that people here in Las Vegas and fans of the Silver and Black are going to recognize. Perhaps most noticeably Gus Bradley and Brandon Faison.
Right.
Two dudes that had a lot of success here in 2021, man. And Gus Bradley, obviously, we wish him nothing but the best, except probably this week.
That week, you don't want him to be successful, but I mean, look, Unique Ngakwe's there.
Yeah,
you know, that's another player. You know, and Gus Bradley, we've seen what he's able to do as a defensive coordinator, so we know that he's going to go in there and he has a lot of good tools to work with, like a Darius Leonard. I mean, there's some really good players on that defensive side of the ball that are going to, you know, make life tough for the Silver and Black. But I do think that Josh McDaniels in that offense is going to have some chess moves for them as well. So it should be a good chess match.
And we haven't even talked about the new signal caller for the Colts, Matt Ryan.
Exactly.
A dude coming in, a guy who is going to the Hall of Fame when all is said and done. And so you throw him in that mix on a very good Indianapolis Colts team, a team that likes to run the ball, that is effective at running the ball with a stud defense. I mean, they're going to be a good football team, man. They really are.
No doubt about it. And that's what their expectations are in Indy. Their expectations are to make the playoffs and make a deep run. And so you know that both of these teams, especially at this point of the season, are going to be lathered up, ready to go, because the expectations with the Raiders are to make a deep run into the playoffs.
You know, we talked about that game within the game week 3 when the Silver and Black head to Nashville to take on Derrick Henry and the Titans. Another one this week, another big game within the game. What does Jonathan Taylor do against this new retooled Raiders defensive front? And I will give the Raiders credit. A year ago in that game, he had one long run. I believe it was a 24-yard run. But outside of that, I mean, the Raiders did a really nice job of keeping him bottled up.
They did. I mean, they didn't, I want to say allowed him to get his, but he was able to get some, but it wasn't a game wrecker. You know what I mean? He didn't destroy the game. And Jonathan
he's that
Taylor,
kind of dude.
He is a game wrecker. He is a guy who can do that. So, of course, Patrick Graham and the defensive team is going to have a lot of their work cut out for him that week, because that's one of those guys that you circle and say, okay, how do you slow this guy down? You're not going to just shut him out. How are you going to slow him down and make him not destroy your game?
Yeah, and I think that it's all, like you talk about, limiting the damage.
Right.
Yep. It's figuring out, it's understanding that this dude is one of the best guys at his job in the NFL. In some senses, he's going to get his.
Right.
How do we just make sure we limit how much he gets and make sure that it comes at moments that do not completely derail what we're trying to do offensively and defensively?
Exactly right. If he's going to break off a 10, 15-yard run, where is it at? Where is it located on the field?
And he's going to get one.
Yeah, he's going to get some of those. But, you know, can you buckle down and get off the field after that? You know, is it one of those that damages you? Or are you going to consistently give up like 3rd and long because all of a sudden he's just having his way? And you know, running backs, really good running backs, and the Raiders have one in Josh Jacobs, they get going and they get lathered up as the game goes.
And it's one of those guys that they just lean on you. They lean on you. And that those 4-yard runs become 7-yard runs. Those 7-yard runs become 12-yard runs. And then when he gets outside, that's the home run.
Home runs. When you start seeing defensive players with their hands on their hips, you know that the running back is getting to them.
Yep. Well, after that, the Raiders go back on the road, and we're headed to Denver, Week 11, November 20th, against the Broncos. Kickoff scheduled for 1:05 p.m.
That could potentially be a cold game.
I think that's right on the border.
Yeah,
it's right on the border. And I mean, we were joking beforehand. It could either be 95 degrees in Denver, or it could be -7 with snow flurries, right? You just never know with Denver. But I think that the fact that this is at this point in the schedule, I think bodes well for the Silver and Black. Obviously, they take on the Broncos week 4 as well. But just another one of those games where you're going to have to bring your A game in this incredibly competitive AFC West.
Right. Well, you mentioned it earlier in the show, is the fact that, you know, a team in week 1 or 2 is not the team you're going to see in week 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Raiders saw the Chargers week 1. They saw the Broncos week 4. So this Broncos team in week 11 is going to be a lot different.
Very, very different.
You know what I mean? I mentioned before, hey, is Russell Wilson and everyone going to be on the same page? By week 11, they'll be on the same page.
100%.
You know what I mean? And for a long time, they've been on the same page.
And we talked about Kansas City being a tough place to play. Same goes for Denver, man. That is not an easy place to play. Taking out the elevation aside, I mean, those fans are loud. They are passionate. They do not like the Raiders.
Of course not.
So it is going to be a great kind of throwback AFC West battle in late November there. And then the Raiders, after that game, Q, they stay on the road and head to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. And we were talking, the Seahawks to me are fascinating.
They are.
In
They
2022.
really are. It's a big mystery.
They are a huge mystery. I mean, you can make the argument they are the biggest mystery as we record this on May 12th, the biggest mystery in the NFL.
Right, and the thing about it is mysteries are kind of scary when they're a Seahawk-type team because you know that Pete
They're going to be
Carroll...
well coached.
Right, you know Pete Carroll's going to handle his business as the head coach, and it's almost so quiet around them that you're worried, like, okay, what are they doing? What are they working on if they're so quiet, you know? Like, I was always the guy in the classroom that was loud, so you knew what I was thinking at all times. But the dude behind me that was really quiet, you never knew what was going on in his mind. Seattle's the dude behind me. I'm the guy real loud.
Yeah, I mean, and you always got to be careful about the quiet. It's always the quiet ones,
I know, man. I know. Seattle's the quiet one right now.
But I think that Pete Carroll, and this is me kind of just inferring from what he said during his offseason press conference, this is a dude who's coming into 2022 motivated and looking to win football games.
Right.
And I think that the recipe, the formula for that is still a bit of a mystery to us, but I guarantee he knows exactly what it looks like.
He's in the lab working on it right now. You know, that's what we do know, that Pete Carroll, with all his energy that he has, he'll be up and down the sideline, he'll be chewing his gum, he'll be aggressive, he'll be that guy. He's in the lab and he's working right now. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued by what this Seattle team's going to look like. And, oh, by the way, you got the 12th there, the 12th man.
Yeah.
They're loud and proud, and, man, I'll tell you, outside of, Texas A&M, I mean, they're probably one of the biggest 12s in the country.
And let me tell you this, we've talked about this before. My wife's family's from Seattle, big Seahawks fans, and I can guarantee you that it's going to be nasty in late November.
Facts.
It's going to be rainy. It's going to be cold. It is going to be a not pleasant place to be. And when those games, you have those games, you need to be able to run the football.
Right.
You have to do it. I mean, you have to figure out a way to control the line of scrimmage because, hey, if the winds and the rains dictate that you're not throwing the ball 40 yards down the field, you have to be able to adjust. But I think for us, knowing Josh McDaniels and learning about him as much as we have over the past couple months, this is a dude who is excellent at adjusting on the fly.
Right. No, he is. And it's funny because everything I've learned about Josh McDaniels, he doesn't adjust game to game. He adjusts like quarter to quarter, drive to drive, play to play. I mean, he's really good, as you mentioned. I think that's one of his probably strongest suits is that he's able to adjust quickly instead of, okay, well, let's take this into the locker room, figure it out, and try to come back in the second half. He can adjust as it needs to be adjusted. And in that game in Seattle is going to be tough. They're going to have to be adjustments early.
And we talk about going to Seattle week 12 at this point, and we've talked about the mystery that are the Seahawks. Who's going to be under center at that point?
Right.
Is it Drew Lock?
Right.
Is it Geno? Is it a player to be named later?
Right.
I mean, like, you just have no idea. But you look at, and if it is Drew Lock, who was part of that Russell Wilson trade, Drew Lock, not the greatest success against the Silver and Black historically, 1-3 during his short career as a Bronco. But, I mean, you wonder, is he the heir apparent to Russ? We don't know.
Right. Well, the thing about Drew Lock is he was never a bad quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He just sometimes put the ball in harm's way. And, it's so funny. Sometimes when you put the ball in harm's way and it doesn't get intercepted, then you're Brett Favre and you're like, oh, man, this guy's great. But if it gets consistently picked off at times, especially early in your career, then it's like, oh man, maybe he's not that guy. But you always want to see the quarterback push the ball. You want to see him take some chances. You want to see that window. And sometimes that window doesn't really come through. But if it does, he's great. I think he has a lot of confidence. I think that for some reason the Seahawks haven't gone and made other moves at quarterback, so I feel like they have a lot of confidence in him too.
Yeah, obviously a talented dude.
Yep.
A talented guy, a guy who can make a lot of throws on that football field. I think for him at this point in his career, it's a matter of putting him in a position to succeed.
Right.
And ultimately, do the Seahawks think, like, hey, this is a guy who could help us win football games either for a year or long term? That remains to be seen. But Q, we talked about it when we started rolling. After the Raiders returned from Seattle, this is where, in my opinion, the gauntlet really begins. This is every game in the NFL is a challenge. Every game is a battle. You have to respect every single opponent. But you just look at the way the calendar shakes out now for the Raiders beginning week 13, welcoming the Los Angeles Chargers to Allegiant Stadium. This is where it begins for me.
Yes.
This is where, okay, time to put your big boy pants on. Let's figure out who we are in 2022. But I think you begin this incredibly challenging month or so welcoming Justin Herbert and the Chargers to Allegiant, and you are going to need that fan base, man. You are going to need them in a big way that's a 125 kickoff.
Right, exactly. And the thing about it is we always talk about it's nice to win games in September and October and November, but it's about what you do in December.
100%.
And December is kicking off, as you mentioned, with a gauntlet. And so the Raiders are going to have their work cut out for them. Every single team that they're going to face is a really good team that's expecting to go to the playoffs and make a deep run. So, yeah, man, this is where, like you said, you pull up your pants, you tighten up your belt strap, you get to bed maybe a little bit earlier, you drink a little bit more vitamin water, whatever the case may be, whatever you're doing, you've got to do what you got to do because this is going to be that stretch.
And you talk about, welcoming the Chargers to Allegiant Stadium. We were talking about it earlier during that first matchup. Whenever these two teams get together, shenanigans happen in the best possible way.
Right.
Like if I was an objective non-Raiders fan, if I was a fan of Team X, I would circle the 2 times the Raiders play the Chargers because something crazy is going to happen.
Right.
And
yeah.
It's one of those matchups, and we're looking at the highlights from last year. I mean, that was cute. I've seen a lot of football. You and I have been incredibly fortunate. We've seen a lot of football. I have never seen a game like that before.
No, what that felt like was one of those heavyweight fights. We see them in Las Vegas all the time, right, where they just stand in the middle of the ring and slug it out. That's what it felt like. The Chargers and the Raiders were slugging it out week 18, and that's what you expect when you have the Raiders and the Chargers going up against. You want to see a slugfest. They absolutely saw. Herbert comes out, makes an incredible play. Derek comes out, makes an incredible play. Herbert's back out. Derek's back out. Boom, boom, boom. One shot that you think's a body blow.
And that tells you all you need to right there. That post-game reaction from Derek.
Yes.
That tells you everything that you need to know in one image. That tells you everything you need to know about Raiders Chargers.
Yep.
But the Raiders finish that game. It's going to be, like we talked about, a heavyweight fight. And then 96 hours later, go take on the defending Super Bowl champions on the road in SoFi.
Thursday night
football.
Primetime football, SoFi Stadium, the defending Super Bowl champs. Yeah, man, I mean, you're playing back-to-back L.A. teams, one at home, one in L.A., and I know that the good thing is that the Raider fans will travel in a major way. They'll be there. They'll be fired up. But, I mean, another team, as I mentioned, all these teams down the stretch from Week 13 on all expect to make the playoffs and make a deep run. Not just get there and say, hey, we made it, great. No, they all expect to make a deep run, especially the defending Super Bowl champs.
It's so funny, too. Like, when the schedule comes out, like, one of the first things I look for outside of the bye is who do you play on a short week?
Right.
I mean, you're playing the champs on a short week.
Yeah, exactly.
And a team that is only going to be better in 2022. I mean, you are going to learn a lot about this Raiders team. And I think it's one of those deals, too, where I think having a Josh McDaniels in this position is huge, especially on a short week. We talked about Josh's ability to adapt, Josh's ability to kind of understand what the personnel looks like for that week. And you and I both know, going into a short week, whether it's in 3 into week 4, 4 into 7, whatever it is, you're not going to get the healthiest version of your team.
No.
So you got to be able to adapt on the fly. You got to be able to understand, like, okay, these 3 guys, 3 of our best dudes are going to be at 80%.
Right.
How can we scheme in such a way that gives them the best chance to succeed? And that's what Josh McDaniels does, man, year after year.
And you're going to have to realize as the coaching staff, okay, these guys aren't going to practice this week. These guys are just going to go through walkthrough. These guys, I mean, at this point, there's not going to be any kind of putting these guys in harm's way because, look, we need them for this stretch. We need them to be as healthy as they could possibly be. So, yeah, that's when it takes the know-how and the want-to of the coaching staff to figure out exactly how to get the most out of their big-time players, and they're going to need them for these games.
And I understand that operating on a short week is never easy, and especially when you have to do it on the road.
Right.
But having a 45-minute flight to Los Angeles is a lot different than having a 4-hour flight to Miami.
Facts. That's awesome. I mean, and that's what the Raiders, if they're going to sign up to play the Chargers and the Rams back-to-back, that's the way they'd want it. They wouldn't want to have to, again, travel really far. If they're going to play some teams with the caliber and the quality of those guys, you want to be able to just travel right down the road.
And the one benefit of the short week, and I actually think as we're kind of talking through this, the one benefit of the short week is that you get the mini bye on the back end of it. And the Raiders are going to need all those days because when they get back to work on December 18th, week 15, they're going to welcome in Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. And don't tell me, man. Oh, and I should bring this up. That is going to be on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
The NFL got that one. That one right.
They got that one right. That's going to be some primetime action. That was 2 primetime action back to back. So that's a good one. But
and if you want 2, we're going to go 3. The next week is also primetime. Q.
There you go. So that's the thing, man. I mean, that's going to be a tough game. At your house, Sunday Night Football. But the good thing is, everyone waits for Sunday night, right? Everyone's waiting for Sunday night, and that's going to be one that everyone is going to have on their calendar circled.
And I will have to kind of give this disclaimer where we have 10 days in between the Rams game and the Patriots game. The storyline headed into that game is going to be Belichick versus McDaniels.
Right.
And I think that's a disservice to both of their teams.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
And I understand
And
that
both coaches will let that be known.
100%.
Yep.
100%. It is about the players. Yes, we are going to love the intrigue of everything headed into that week, but it is going to be much bigger than the two dudes wearing hoodies on the sideline.
Right, but that's going to be a lot of the conversation, and so I think that the players are going to take that as challenges as well to say, hey, we're going to go out there and put on a heck of a show. Again, it's prime time, it's Sunday night, everyone's waiting for it. That's going to be one of those that the players are going to steal the show, even though, as you mentioned, the headlines will be about the two dudes on the sidelines.
And we look at the Patriots now, and they're an intriguing team for a variety of reasons. I think they're always going to be shrouded in that bit of mystery. But you look at Mac Jones now, headed into year 2. Mac Jones without Josh McDaniels.
Right.
So what version of Mac Jones are we going to get? And everything that we've heard from Josh has obviously been overly effusive for what young Mac Jones is
quarterback. Good quarterback.
Objectively good quarterback. But there's always that kind of air of the bit of the unknown when you're changing a coordinator, especially for a young dude.
Well, and that's a good thing for the Patriots and Mac Jones is that this game is later in the season. You know what I mean? Because by that time, he'll have an opportunity to kind of adapt to, the guy in the ear who's calling the plays. And yeah, it's different. When you have a different coordinator, even if they're doing the same thing, everyone calls games differently. That's the one thing. And calling games, everyone thinks it's like Madden. You're picking box A, B, C, or D. It's not. You're doing a play in quarter 1 to set up a play in the fourth quarter.
That's not checkers, baby.
Right, exactly. It's a rhyme and reason to why these play callers call these plays. So it's going to take a little while for Mac Jones to learn his new play caller and their rhythm and how they get that rhythm. But by this week 15, they'll be on the same page.
And we take out the Mac Jones, we take out the Belichick, we take out the McDaniels, we take out the names. I mean, you look at this just on paper. This is a game in middle of December between two AFC teams that are hopeful that they're going to have postseason aspirations.
Right.
So this is a game, man. Take the names out and everything. This is a very, very important game that the Raiders are going to have to figure out a way to handle at home.
For sure. And, I mean, you saw what New England was able to do a season ago. You saw the run that they were able to make, and them and the Raiders were kind of neck and neck trying to get to the playoffs at the same time. And so I expect them to both be in the same situation again this year.
Yeah. Like we said, two very talented teams, and this is one that I think if you're a fan, give that one a nose.
Of course. That's circled, highlighted. It's got some rainbows and puppy dogs around it.
It's got it all, stickers, everything. So after that game, though, I mean, and at this point, Q, we're talking about three really tough games. You're talking Chargers at home,
right?
Rams on the road on a short week. You welcome the Patriots at home. Oh, by the way, let's travel east again on a short week to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers Saturday night. That's a 5:15 kickoff on NFL Network.
That is going to be just a fun game.
Yes.
I mean, a fun game. It's Christmas Eve. What bigger present does Raider Nation want than the Pittsburgh Steelers, an old throwback? We mentioned at the top of the show, old throwback style, thinking of John Madden and his hair just going in the wind and just, and all the celebration on the sideline. And that's when you start interviewing guys like Freddie Bolitnikoff, and you start interviewing the old guys that, the classics, the Hall of Famers from the Silver and Black. You start talking about that week. That's an absolute rivalry week that they don't play each other all the time, but when they do get together, it's always a heck of a show.
And it's one of those things, too, very selfishly for the folks here. It's a Christmas Eve game, not a Christmas game.
You could be home for Christmas.
Everyone's going to see Santa in the morning. When Santa pops out, they're going to be there. And they might be getting home like an hour or two before Santa.
You're going to get home on Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, but, all kidding aside, for folks like us with real lives and stuff, that's important, right? You're looking at the calendar to figure out, am I going to be home for this holiday? Am I going to be home for Christmas? Very, very important. But we talk about that short week again, man. You are now, if you're the Raiders, you've had 2 of 3 weeks where you're operating on a short week.
No, you have. And you've got to, again, it's all about putting your body in the right position to go out there. The coaching staff, they have a lot of work that they have to do as far as making sure that they manage every one of the players and don't put them in position where they're doing too much in practice and they're worn out.
And a big credit to AJ Neibel and his strength staff, because those are the guys that you might not hear their names all the time.
But they play such a major role.
Huge, especially when you're talking about that, let's call it 22-day stretch where you have 3 games and 2 of those weeks are in a short week.
Right.
That's where you need a top-tier strength and conditioning program, and the Raiders are lucky to have just that.
For sure. That's always one that it's like the game inside the game, as you mentioned a few times, that, guys and people don't see that. They don't always recognize that. Fan bases don't always look at that until after that stretch. It's like, well, the team played all these games in 22 days. Well, that's not fair. Well, hey, man, it's on paper. It's a schedule. You play the schedule. And that's why when you have a strength and conditioning team that has you set up, so, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we're preparing for.
And also, very interesting, too, this is the first time it feels like in forever that we will not see Ben Roethlisberger under center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the question remains,
That's strange.
Who will be under center for the Pittsburgh Steelers at that juncture?
Yeah, man, they have Mitchell Trubisky. You know, they went and drafted Kenny Pickett. He walks across not even the parking lot. He walks literally across the hallway.
Yeah.
You know
How
what I
wild is
mean?
that?
So that's a cool storyline as well.
100%.
And so maybe that's a conversation leading into that game. I mean, that's going to be some of the intrigue of their whole season. Just, what quarterback's going to be on the center? When do you finally see Kenny Pickett? And if he happens to come out a little bit before that game and start playing, or maybe he plays on that game, who knows? It'll add to the intrigue of that week.
100%. 100%. It'll be a great game on a short week. And then the Raiders, because of the short week, will get an extra day to get ready for, drumroll please, the San Francisco 49ers on January 1st, 1:05 p.m.
How cool is that, though? They're playing on Christmas Eve, and then they're playing on New Year's.
Pretty good.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of cool.
It is.
And, oh, by the way, you're hosting it on New Year's? You telling me that Las Vegas isn't going to be lathered up, ready to go?
Boy.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, think about this, man. If you're a fan of either the Raiders or the Niners, you're coming to Vegas for New Year's.
Battle of the Bay, man.
Man, exactly. There is a historic nature to this rivalry.
Yes.
And you and I, both Northern California dudes, you know that this means something to both of these fan bases.
Without a doubt. It doesn't matter if their records are over. It does not matter what the record is. You throw the records out, they can go play out in the sandlot and they would do it. You know what I mean? Because it's personal. It means so much. The old Battle of the Bay, and it's going to be in Las Vegas, and so there's going to be a lot of trash talking between the two fan bases. It's so funny because the fan bases are going to talk way more trash. The players are focused on playing the game, but the fan bases are going to be, all week long. Matter of fact, probably 2 weeks out, the fan base is going to be all fired up.
And it's one of those, unique situations where at the time the Raiders and Niners were geographically very close together, but they didn't play all that often.
Right.
And unfortunately, the last time these two teams played, the Niners had quite the Thursday night. The quarterback
in Santa Clara,
the quarterback of that team,
Nick Mullins. Yep, and that was his debut.
It sure was.
That was his debut, and he had a heck of a debut. He had a heck of a game, and so a lot of the roster obviously is not the same as it was in that game. But man, I don't think any Raider fan, and I know 49er fans, they all remember that game, because they're still bragging about that game. But Raider fans all remember it too. As soon as they realized that the Raiders were playing the Niners and hosting them this year, everyone thought back to that game, especially after Nick Mullins signed. It was like, yep, that's a good quarterback. That's a good quarterback. Remember what he did in his debut?
And I feel like we've talked about it a lot about kind of the uncertainty at quarterback for different teams. The Niners also very much in that position, right?
Yeah.
At this point, we're talking January 1 of 2023, which is wild, by the way.
That's nuts.
What happened?
Hey, man, look, we're getting older. I'm getting old.
I 100% am getting old, too. But it's like, is Jimmy G on this roster?
Right.
Is it Trey Lance time? Is it other?
Right.
Who knows? You really don't know. But we do know Kyle Shanahan, very much like Josh McDaniels, one of the elite offensive minds in this game.
Top tier.
So that'll be another fun game to watch. Strictly from a fan perspective.
Yes, top tier offensive mind right there in Kyle Shanahan. He's going to have every team or his players lathered up, ready to go. Deebo Samuel's a heck of a player. I mean, they've got squad. George Kittle, you're going to see a couple tight ends that are the top of the cream of the crop as far as the tight ends in the league, and Darren Waller and George Kittle. I mean, there's a lot of intrigue and a lot to like about this game.
And like I said, if you're a fan of the Raiders or the Niners, why wouldn't you go to Vegas for New Year's? Enjoy a fantastic dinner. Go check out a show and then check your squad out on New Year's Day.
I'll tell you what, man, it's not just going to be the Niners and Raiders either. NFL fans in general are going to flock to New Year's to be in Vegas for New Year's. And oh, by the way, this is going to be a fantastic rivalry, old school rivalry game. Let's try to go to that. If not go to it, we're going to be watching it somewhere because this is going to be all eyes on this game.
And I will say, very, very low level, but something that intrigues me, a top tier uniform matchup in this game as well.
Yeah.
I mean, man, to have those, on both sides, those historic colorways. I mean, that's one of those games where you're going to look at the pictures in 20 years and they're going to look just like the pictures from 40 years ago.
Right.
And I think that's kind of cool. I really
do.
do.
Almost, to me, though, feels like this should probably be a Sunday night game as well.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Because, again, it's New Year's and it's Vegas.
You need people, they need time to sleep in a little bit, to hit brunch.
Right, because New Year's Eve, man.
To get those bacon and eggs, make sure everything is rocking and rolling.
Right, exactly, man. You gotta do something, man. Gonna get a couple of egg burritos or something in the morning to get yourself feeling right.
But I will say, and there's gonna be a group of people, and you and I are both too old to be doing this, that they're just going to go straight from the celebration to Allegiant Stadium.
Straight from the strip to Allegiant? Yeah, you're right. And I will not be that guy.
No.
If I am that guy, it's all bad. It's
Hey, when's
something went
the
bad.
last time you made it to midnight on New Year's?
I can't even remember. But I'll tell you where I was, at my house.
Yeah.
I promise you that. I was at my house. I wasn't anywhere because I am way too old for that.
If I hit like 10 o'clock on a New Year's, I'm feeling
Right.
good.
Yeah,
If I can do like East Coast style, if I can see the ball drop and everyone's singing and dancing, like, all right, man.
Brother,
It's the thing.
when I got to Las Vegas in 2021, it was 4th of July weekend. I never saw one firework. I was asleep by the time the firework.
All right, I won't go that.
My mom's like, hey, are you going to watch the... Oh, he's asleep. Never mind.
Just let him go. Let him go.
Yeah, my
Good
bad.
night.
Yep.
Oh, man, but the Raiders are going to finish that game, an incredible game for a variety of reasons.
yes.
And hopefully, all kidding aside, we're hoping very significant
Yeah.
at that point in the calendar. And then they wrap it up either on January 7th or January 8th, TBD. We all
Right.
know how that last week of the schedule works,
Yep.
against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And now,
Man.
if things go as I hope they do for both of these teams, that game's going to be in prime time. I just have to feel like
Right.
it's going to be in prime time.
I feel like that as well, and hopefully, you know, this is something that, as we saw the last year, we saw the Raiders and Chargers Week 18, and it meant a spot in the
Yep.
playoffs. It meant everything. I'm hoping, and the schedulers have done a great job. I got to tip their cap that the way that they've been able to put these schedules together, they make so many games late in the season matter. I would love more than anything else than this game to really, really matter about, hey, who's going to go to the playoffs, who's not going to go to the playoffs. I mean, that's just the energy and intrigue. And you were there last year. You know how much energy there was way before kickoff inside Allegiant Stadium just because there was so much riding on the game. You know, it was just, it made so much buildup. So I'm hoping that it's a primetime game, Sunday Night Football, and it's for all the marbles. That would be great.
That's what you want.
For the division. Go for the division.
Let's do it. Why
Let's
not?
do it.
You and I are going to write the script this year.
Hey, they always tell me you got to manifest it. So I'm
Yes.
manifesting it right now.
I mean, but that's really, all kidding aside, that's what you want, right? You
Absolutely.
want two historic AFC West rivals to play in meaningful games at the end of the season. And it does throw me off a little bit still seeing Week 18. I won't lie
I
to you.
know. And
I
then
won't
looking
lie
at
to you.
the date, it's like January 7th or 8th. It's like you're supposed to be in the playoffs.
Exactly.
You know?
It's wild. But, you know, Q, we've gone through Week 1 through 18, as crazy as that is. When we look at the schedule in totality, right? Because now we're going to have, over the next, call it 2 months until training camp goes,
Right.
we are going to dissect this one piece of paper
Oh, man.
time and time and time again.
Yep.
What stands out to you? Is it a good schedule? But more importantly for me, is it a fair schedule?
Well, I mean, I think that every schedule's fair, to be honest. I mean, it looks
I'm
tough.
glad you say that, by the way.
You
because
know-
there's a group of people out there who think that, oh, this isn't fair.
No,
blah, blah,
I
blah,
know,
blah.
man. I know, and I'm not one that signs up for that. I feel like you play who's on your schedule, and if you look at it and you think, hey, this is the tough schedule, fine. Then your team gets through the tough schedule, and then they're primed to make a deep run into the playoffs. Can't say there's a team on there that they can't beat. I'm excited by the schedule. I think it's a challenging schedule on paper. We know that some teams are better in the regular season than they were a year ago. Some teams are worse. I mean, you just don't know. It's the ebb and flow of the season. It's going to be different. But looking at these teams, it's a lot of fun teams. I think there's a lot of good games at home. There's a lot of good road games. I mean, you know, New Orleans, obviously excited about that. I think there's a lot of good games on here. And you know, I think the bye week comes at a decent time. So after that bye week, you know, you got a long stretch of games, and they're all going to be good ones, and they're all going to have playoff implications. And there you go. So I like the schedule.
I do too. I like the schedule. I'm very much like you. I don't put stock into, oh, this isn't fair,
right.
or oh, the league is
Yeah,
out to do this. I
I'm
don't
not that
put
guy.
any stock in that. Though my one kind of, I wouldn't say criticism, my one thing that I kind of raised an eyebrow at is only one primetime game at Allegiant this year.
Right.
That surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, the Raiders do have 4 primetime games as of now.
Right.
At Allegiant Stadium, or excuse me, not at Allegiant Stadium, in total.
Yeah.
But the fact that there's only one on that beautiful palace surprises me a little bit. I understand that you can't feed everyone. I get that.
sure.
But it is, to me, I think, a little, if you will.
Well, I'll say this. I think that, you know, 17 and 18, those weeks, they have opportunities to
Yep.
possibly be flexed. And so
great point. A great point.
I'm hoping that at least one of those games gets flexed. Because I'll say this, and you know, Allegiant Stadium, primetime games, put on a heck of a show.
Absolutely. And that's
Heck
on
of
the
a
field,
show.
that's off the field, that's
Yes.
the performances, that's the entire game day experience that I think a lot of people deserve a ton of credit for.
Man,
making
Lil
it.
Jon was in the building last year.
was in the house.
I'm 45 years old, and all I heard was, yeah! You know, I mean, everyone was all fired up about that. So, yeah, man, I mean, Allegiant Stadium does it right for primetime games.
Absolutely. All right, Q, real quick on our way out. If you get one game to go to this year, what's your game? And I know-
New Orleans.
That's it?
I don't even have to let you finish. New Orleans.
Okay.
New Orleans, and it's a wrap.
All right.
What's
It's a wrap.
your one game?
Man, I think that Ooh, it's a great question. I'm a huge Tennessee guy.
Okay.
Like, I love the city of,
Okay.
of Nashville.
Shout out to Nashville. It's
Shout out to
a great
Nashville one
city.
time. A fantastic city. I think that would be one. If I was going to pick a home game, though, if I was going to pick, hey, I can only see one game.
Yeah.
Man, Raiders, Niners.
Oh,
New
yeah,
Year's
yeah.
Day.
Oh, we got an option on home games
Well,
too?
I mean, you cut me off, Q.
Well, I
You
mean,
cut
I
me
did
off. I
'cause
said
I got
you get one
excited.
game. I know excitement is high.
I thought you were talking about road games. 'Cause
Well,
I'm going to be at the home games.
You know what I learned, though? I learned Q has a very fantastic relationship with the city of New Orleans because you came on that quick. I didn't even finish the question. You're like, New Orleans. I'm going to New Orleans. I'll see you there.
I do. I tell the wife all the time how much I love the city, and she's never been. And she's like, yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, but one game in general. You get one on the calendar. Which
I mean,
which
that
is your pick?
you can't go wrong with that Niner game, right? But you picked that one, so I'll stick with New Orleans.
Yeah.
I'll just go with two. One road game is New Orleans, and the home game is the Niners.
Yeah.
There you go. Done.
Enough said. And we're done. That's a wrap.
That's it?
Man, this was great. This was fantastic. You did a fantastic job, man. I'm so glad we were able to get you in here.
Yeah.
30 seconds of plugs. Where can the people find you?
Raider Nation Radio 920, 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Of course, we always stream our shows on Raiders.com, and you can always hit me up on Twitter at your boy Q254. But be nice. Be nice. Twitter is a tough place sometimes.
It is, man. It is a dark place that it is. I mean, he's Q Myers. I'm Eddie Paskal. A big thank you to everyone back in the control room who made this happen. Big shout out to Peyton and Stevie and everyone behind the scenes who did a fantastic job. And here we go, Q. It's time for football. Let's do it.
Let's go.